It's time for Positively Kansas. Coming up, New York has the Statue of Liberty, St. Louis has the Gateway Arch, and Wichita has the Keeper of the Plains. Discover how the unlikely story of how the city's signature landmark came to be and why visitors find it so inspiring. Also, we'll visit a Kansas pet store with a purpose beyond just keeping your pampered pooch stocked with toys and snacks. Every sale aims to help animals who are not as fortunate as yours. Plus, it's a special ceremony along the Arkansas River that never seems to get much attention, but helps tell an important story about American history. And in our Kansas Wild Edge report, Mike Blair examines the takeoffs and landings of some of nature's most dazzling aviators. I'm Sierra Scott. Those stories are queued up and ready to roll for this edition of Positively Kansas.
Positively Kansas is brought to you in part by Visit Wichita, bringing you Wichita destinations on Positively Kansas. Wichita, the heart of the country.
Before investing your hard-earned money, make sure your financial advisor understands your objectives. Mark Douglas, CFP, serving our community for over 20 years, providing customized financial solutions that focus on the individual.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas serves more than 930,000 Kansans in various programs. Independent, member-owned. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, an independent licensee of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, supports KPTS.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
They were two Kansans from completely different backgrounds who met in a very unlikely way. But when they got together to collaborate, the response from people far and wide was, wow. Now, 45 years after it was unveiled, Anthony Powell brings us a rare first-hand account of the real story behind Wichita's Keeper of the Plains.
It's often called Wichita's most well-known and beloved symbol, the Keeper of the Plains. A 44-foot, 50-ton statue designed by Kiowa Comanche artist and Wichita resident Black Bear Boson. The idea for the statue was initiated by the city and private organizations to mark America's bicentennial in 1976. The Keeper went up in 1974. The statue's location at the junction of the Big and Little Arkansas rivers is a reminder that history, like the flow of water, never ends. While many Wichitans have heard of Black Bear Boson, it's safe to say most don't recognize the name Martin Kallstrom. Yet without him, the Keeper likely never would have been.
He was an electrical engineering graduate from KU.
To learn more about Kallstrom, we sat down with his 100-year-old widow, Ethelene, who also goes by Brick due to her red hair as a kid. Ethelene says she and Martin moved around the country a bit after marrying, eventually settling in Wichita, where Martin had relatives. He went to work for KG&E.
I don't think I ever saw him without a suit on.
It was a health scare, though, that would cement Martin Kallstrom's name in Wichita history. A scare that led to his meeting and becoming friends with Black Bear Boson.
They met at St. Francis Hospital. They both were on the same floor. My dad had had a heart attack. I'm not sure why Black Bear was there. He might have had one too, being on the same floor.
The two began a friendship. And it's believed at St. Francis, Black Bear Boson showed Martin the sketch he created for the Keeper and asked for Martin's engineering help to advance the project. Once home from the hospital, Martin volunteered his time and went to work on a 44-inch model that would eventually become the 44-foot Keeper statue.
He used balsa wood, toothpicks, cardboard, and an X-Acto knife, and he'd cut it out and measure and cut and measure and cut.
Bob remembers well being at the Keeper dedication and hearing Black Bear Bosun's speech, a speech he still has.
To the city of Wichita, Kansas, and all its people, it is an extreme pleasure and pride that I give this sculpture, Keeper of the Plains. Wichita is not the place of my birth, but it is the birthplace of my forefathers. This gesture of giving is not only typical of my people, but is also a personal gesture to the city that has been so kind to me. I sincerely hope that this sculpture will always be a reminder of all the peoples that we are, and we belong to the earth, our mother, to the sun, our father, and all above, to each other, and to the Great Spirit, Black Bear Bosun, artist.
For the Kallstrom family, the Keeper is like a family member.
I always feel good when I see it. My youngest son and his wife, he proposed to her down there at the Keeper.
Etheline is also full of pride about her husband's contribution. She insisted on wearing her Keeper hat for the interview. But she's also a very honest woman. And despite the museums in town recognizing Martin for his efforts,
Well, I don't think he gets enough credit.
but what matters most to the Kallstrom family is the credit Black Bear Bosun gave Martin, the two remaining friends until their deaths.
Black Bear was, I know, very generous in his letting Dad know that he appreciated what Dad had done.
And for the last several decades, countless Wichitans, Kansans, and out-of-state visitors have been grateful for the beauty this unlikely pair of men created. I'm Anthony Powell for Positively Kansas.
Bob Kallstrom says his dad's love and devotion to Wichita wasn't just reflected in his work on the Keeper. He was also involved with numerous charitable organizations wanting to give back to the city that gave him so much. That's the backstory. Now, in this week's edition of Wichita Destinations, visitors share the awe and wonder they experience in the presence of this iconic Kansas landmark.
It's really a special icon for our community. And then when you hear the spiritual meaning behind it all and you put it all together, it's just a really cool place.
You won't find anything like this anywhere else. I haven't, people show pictures of other places they've been, but to me nothing stands out quite like the Keeper.
Breathtaking, absolutely amazing. I wish everyone could see it.
Spiritual, moving.
Loved it.
I feel like it brings like a sense of togetherness with everyone. Is one thing everyone knows about around here.
The Keeper is certainly more than a statue or a focal point along our river. It pays homage to the Native American history that we have in Wichita, and it brings the community together in a spirit of unity and awe.
That was started out as a beautification project and one that would honor the Native American culture here in Wichita. It was created from Corten weathering steel, same material that is used for Picasso's sculpture of the woman's head in Chicago.
When we think about marketing Wichita, we always ask ourselves, like, what is unique? And we have something so unique with the Keeper of the Plains. I mean, that is very unique. And when I talk to my counterparts across the country and they see the Keeper of the Plains, because we have it in our marketing materials, they're always like, that is a cool place. And I go back to the Statue of Liberty, that everybody sees that and they immediately know New York. When you see the Keeper, you immediately know Wichita.
Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do-ya. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, hey.
Native Americans have a thing about honoring the sun and the moon, and that sculpture faces the east. The sun rises on it, the sun sets on it, and it represents 4 different areas of our world.
At night, the keeper is surrounded by a ring of fire. It symbolizes a circle of life. It's uniting all 4 elements: earth, wind, fire, and water.
It started out in a humble attitude of a very generous man by the name of Black Bear, and with the community support and everything, it is what it is today. It's 44 feet, the one that they have standing out there today.
This is just something that you don't expect to see in the middle of a city.
You know, I think when you go to the Keeper of the Plains and you see it, and then you're there when the fire pots ignite, it is really an emotional experience, and it's really cool when you see visitors experience it for the first time, because they first of all think, hey, that's a pretty cool statue. And then when they understand the significance behind it, and as it speaks to our, our heritage, and then when the fire pots go out, and when you're standing on the bridge, you see the fire pots, the keeper, and the beautiful backdrop of our city, it's really, emotional. And it also, I think, speaks to the pride of the city. So when we're out there with visitors, every time they leave, they say, wow. And with residents, when you go out there, you just see this kind of calm excitement, and then it's really just a feeling of peace.
The spectacular ring of fire that surrounds the keeper is lit after dark each evening for 15 minutes at a time. There's convenient parking, so if you've never experienced it, you should definitely put it on your to-do list. Now to an emotional event that occurs each year in Wichita, but without much fanfare. There's a good chance you aren't even aware of it. But as Chris Frank shows us, the tolling of the boats recognizes the tremendous sacrifice by sailors who helped save our country from tyranny.
Please rise.
Every October, United States submarine veterans, their family members, and friends meet at Wichita's Veterans Memorial Park for the tolling of the boat ceremony. The ceremony is about honoring fallen submarine heroes from Kansas. It is fundamental to the creed of the members of the United States Submarines Veterans Organization.
While performing their duties with honor, integrity, and courage, and we demonstrate to our families and our youth by our deeds that we honor them.
Bob Fugate, commander of Dorado Base, says central to those deeds is the calling out of the names of the Kansas submariners who died, the boat they were on, naming where and when they died. The bell is rung for each, and a carnation is tossed into the river in their memory.
USS S4, SS 109.
The USS Dorado SS 248 was lost October 12, 1943, on her transit from New London to Pearl via the Panama Canal. John Richard Weeks, Mapleton, Kansas. William Michael Surgic, Kansas City, Kansas. The tolling of the ship's bell reminds us of the debt of gratitude we owe both to our departed shipmates and to those in active service who silently guard the honor of our country while serving under the sea. We shall not forget them,
nor shall we forget them. For Positively Kansas, this is Chris Frank.
The U.S. submarine vets conduct the tolling of the boat ceremony every October at the Wichita Veterans Memorial Park. Well, the next story is about a business with a purpose. Well, actually a couple of purposes. One, it recycles and repurposes pet supplies that Kansans no longer want. And in the process, it's able to rescue lovable critters caught in the throes of abuse and natural disasters. Anna Spencer has the story.
If you know Lisa Overrocker, you know her love for animals of all kinds has spanned a lifetime.
When I learned how to walk, we'd go to family get-togethers, and my parents always knew if there was a dog in the room, they knew where I was at. But as I got older, I couldn't have a dog where we lived, so I would walk neighborhood dogs, and it just kept growing from there.
An avid pet lover, she spends her days surrounded by furry friends and runs 2 companies dedicated to caring for them, a pet grooming boutique and her newest venture, Wichita's first pet thrift store. The idea came to her when the space next to her existing business became available. She wondered if the city was ready for a pet thrift store, one where both new and used pet supplies would be available, but with a twist. She took the leap and founded Paws Cross Thrift Store, a nonprofit whose mission is to provide disaster relief for pets across Kansas.
People are still learning we're here, but it's not so much the thrift store that we focus on, it's trying to build up enough supplies for the disaster relief. That's really our main purpose. The thrift store just helps us do that.
Lisa's store accepts new and gently used pet supply donations as well as dog food, which she then uses to create pet disaster kits. She says her mission is to fulfill a pet's basic needs in the days immediately following a tragedy or natural disaster. It's a labor of love that first stirred in her heart following her family's own tragedy 10 years ago.
I know when we had our fire, we went to thrift stores to get furniture and to get things we needed. And a lot of times they heard our story and they're like, well, you know, here, just take it. We want to help. There's nothing for pets. They just kind of get pushed off and you got to figure out what you're going to do. Some people can't keep them because they need to focus on other things. So that's just, you know, my passion with animals along with helping people that are going through a disaster is, you know, I get to put both together. It's pretty amazing.
In the short time Paws Crossed has been in business, Lisa says they've learned a lot about providing disaster relief, especially following a recent tornado near Lawrence. Aside from pet kennels, leashes, and the like, she's made important contacts with the Red Cross and the United Way to fulfill her mission. She's also learned that pet food is the biggest need, a need that exists in large-scale disasters and in tough circumstances among our neighbors right here in Wichita.
I actually have a lady that comes in, she's a nurse, and she works regularly with some of the homeless people down by the river, and she knows the people that have the pets. And I've worked with her to help them out. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely being homeless is a disaster for the individual or family that's involved. So we do not turn them away at all.
Lisa says the need is great, especially since disasters and tragedies can occur at any time. She adds that she's grateful for volunteers, donors, and the shoppers who are making this mission a reality and helping her care for furry friends of all kinds in their hour of need. For Positively Kansas, I'm Anna Spencer.
Paws Crossed Thrift Store also donates portions of the proceeds to Mount Hope Animal Sanctuary and to local rescues as well. Pet food donations are always welcome. Well, Kansas is known for its aviators, both human and otherwise. In this week's Kansas Wild Edge Report, Mike Blair shows us how some of our feathered friends are able to handle the laws of gravity with amazing and dazzling grace.
It can be silky smooth when geese rain down. Poetry in motion when wings split calm skies. Incomers half a mile out set and cup their wings. Air strums feathers as the big birds let gravity do its work. Whole flocks parachute to earth with held poses, speeding, yet hung for a moment against the blue. Until finally, flaps and gear down, the big birds rouse. Braking with powerful wings to skate a successful landing. home for now. That's how it works in gentle weather. But Midwestern days seldom deal such tranquil ways, and tricky winds put flight skills to the test. Tight groups and bumpy air excuse the rhymes, and now each bird may employ urgent moves to avoid collisions. Such eruptions add delightful spice to the landing approach, and it's worth watching the morning returns for a whirligig show. It's called tumbling. All geese may show such moves, but white fronts lead the way. These agile birds seem to delight in carving didos while dropping from the sky. They appear at times to do it just for fun, though their tendency to fly faster than other geese species may be the reason. Tumbling is a way to help slow down, as well as to break formations too close for comfort. Whatever their reason, white-fronted geese are most likely to tumble when landing. But not far behind are their pale cousins, the Snows and Ross's geese. These small geese also break and tumble when landing into moderate breezes, usually exhibiting the behavior while still several hundred feet high. Snows typically fly higher than other geese on short feeding flights, about 500 to 1,000 feet above the ground, and they tend to make more abrupt descents when landing. For them, tumbling provides a faster way down in dicey winds. And finally, the familiar Canadas. It's all part of the fascinating life that shares our outdoors world. I'm Mike Blair for Positively Kansas.
Well, that's a wrap for this week. If you have a story idea, jot down this email address, positivelykansas@kpts.org. We always like to hear from you. Thanks for watching. I'm Sierra Scott. See you next time for another half hour of information and inspiration that's Positively Kansas.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas serves more than 930,000 Kansans in various programs. Independent, member-owned. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, an independent licensee of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, supports KPTS.
Before investing your hard-earned money, make sure your financial advisor understands your objectives. Mark Douglas, CFP, serving our community for over 20 years, providing customized financial solutions that focus on the individual.
Visit Wichita, bringing you Wichita destinations on Positively Kansas. Wichita, the heart of the country.